Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Doing another segment of my In the News. I've got some companies that I want to talk about that are in the news, but the big news that I want to talk about first is what's happening tomorrow, which is the Federal Reserve will be doing their next meeting to change or to move interest rates. As you can see here on the I follow the US dollar so closely because what it does has a big impact on the commodities that are priced in the US dollar, which is the most watched price of all the commodities, whether that be gold, silver, copper, lead, zinc, all commodities that are priced. So, and that by extension has an effect on the price of the mining stocks. And so what I want to talk about here is that, as you can see, going back to the US dollar here, it topped out in September, has been on a very steep decline ever since. And what I think that is telling us is that the currency traders are feeling that the Federal Reserve is at the end of its rate tightening, which was very bullish for the price of the US dollar. As you can see here, it actually started to move ahead of the Federal Reserve, making the change in direction to raising interest rates. Had a golden cross here in July, and then went on an explosive move, really got blasted off when the Fed started to raise the interest rates aggressively. But then it topped out, and I believe what caused that top out is that the currency traders are getting ahead of the curve, just like they did here when they got ahead of the interest rate increases. And now I think that they're getting ahead of the Federal Reserve. First, it slowed down. It had made successive 0.75% moves. And in 2022, and then in December, it slowed down to 0.5%. There's pretty much 100% consensus that they will only raise it 0.25% at this February meeting tomorrow. I believe that there's a chance that they could go to keep it at 0.5%, but most likely it'll be 0.25%. So as you can see, the currency traders were ahead of the curve, and this decline here is quite dramatic as it's gone through a death cross in early 2023. So it's getting off to a very bad January effect, and I think you're going to see the 200-day rollover and spend most of the 2020 or all of 2023 in a very negative trend, and this 50-day moving average continue to move down. Basically, what it comes down to for me is that the Federal Reserve has over-tightened, and they're breaking things. You can see that in the housing sales. They've fallen off a cliff. You can see it in other big consumer things that consumers buy: cars, computers. Everything is on the decline. The consumer is tapped out at their credit cards. They're now paying 19% or more. This is all going to start a significant recession, and I believe that the next big moves by the Federal Reserve, they'll probably have 2 more quarter-point moves, and then stop completely the raising of interest rates, and then in the second half of 2023, they'll be moving towards the next round of quantitative easing. And so I'll be watching closely for the Federal Reserve announcement. I think that you're going to hear them keep up the comments about being hawkish, but I think that that's just talk. I don't think it's reality anymore. They've done a lot of damage that is just starting to show, and I think it will continue to show, and that's what's going to force them into lowering interest rates in the second half of 2023. All right, so let's take a look at what's gold's doing as this is all happening, as the US dollar is under pressure. Here's gold, and gold bottomed in September, October, November with a triple bottom, then had a big breakout. It's now gone through a golden cross, having an exceptional January effect, and the slope or trajectory of the 50-day moving average is very bullish. The 200-day moving average is about to turn up as well. So January effect tends to predict what's going to happen in the for the rest of the year, and I think we're going to see the rest of the year with gold performing extremely well. I think that 2,500 is in the cards, and 2,500 to 3,000 could also be in the cards in this year. But nonetheless, a bullish trend for gold, which is going to help the gold stocks. As I said, you know, where the US dollar goes, so goes many metals. Here's the silver doing the same thing. Had a big bottoming effect here in early November. It broke out aggressively. It's now trading above it went through a golden cross in late December. It's now trading above the 50-day and the 200-day. It's also in a very bullish trend. Copper, which I call the gold of the base metals, because where copper goes often, so goes the rest of the base metals. And as you can see, it's made a significant breakout in November, trending upwards, higher lows, higher highs, went through a golden cross in January, also has a very strong January effect, trading well above its 50-day and 200-day. So this is sort of the backdrop of what's happening with the metals, and they have, where the metals prices go, so goes the price of a lot of the metal stocks, and they tend to significantly outperform the moves in the metals, which is why I'm so bullish on the metal stocks. Okay, so let's start talking about some of the companies that are in the news. I'm going to go to Kalinex here, and this news release went out yesterday. Kalinex announces 2023 exploration targets at the Pine Bay project located in Flin Flon Mining District, Manitoba. The company has identified high priority exploration targets at depth on the Rainbow deposit, where it remains open for expansion. Modeling of the BPEM data at Alchemist indicates numerous anomalies for follow-up drilling. High-grade gold and silver mineralization provides optimism at target area Odin, and opportunity to build a high-grade copper-gold resource on the Cabin horizon. So as is pretty clear, they've got several things on targets on the go. Here's the Rainbow deposit at depth. As you can see, it's got very good continuity of the mineralization. Here's some of their highlight: return 5 meters of 1.56% copper equivalent, consisting of 1.45% copper, 0.07 grams of gold, 1.86 grams of silver, and 0.11% zinc. And again, it's got excellent continuity, which is always, you know, they say grade is king. Really, continuity is king, because continuity is what builds mines. If you got random distribution of your metals, you're going to have a money-losing mine. On the other hand, if you have continuity, that's what makes for excellent mines. And as you can see here in the geophysics, it remains open at depth. All righty, here's a cross section. As you can see, their zones are the yellow zone, the orange zone, the red zone. Excellent continuity in there that we're seeing with the Rainbow zone. Stepping out, here's the Alchemist. not nearly as drilled off as the Rainbow, but they're getting sniffs of some excellent stuff. 4 meters of 1.1% copper equivalent, 20 meters of 0.18, 2 to 4 meters of 1.78%. So they're getting started here in a very promising way, and it remains open up and down. And it looks like they're getting an idea of a trend here that's developing on the hits at the Alchemist deposit, and so they've got a lot more work to do there. Here they talk about their Pine Bay cabin long section, 10 meters. Here's the high grade, 10 meters of 6% zinc, 1.8 grams of gold, 60 grams of silver, 0.7% copper, and 0.4% lead. As you can see, here's the pierce points of their drilling. They're getting some good continuity of mineralization, interesting geophysics, and yeah, it looks like another good target to be chasing after. There's the Pine Bay exploration drill results. Got some good numbers in there that look quite interesting. Okay, so I've reached out to this company. I'm trying to get an interview with them, and I'll keep reaching out to them because I like what I see. So let's go to their stock chart, and CNX is their stock symbol. They trade on the venture. As you can see, they bottomed here on the 50-day, 52-week bottom was right here at about $1.49, $1.50. And had a pretty good move up to the 290 range, kind of softened up again, and then have recently broken out quite significantly. This trend here looks very bullish to me. We're seeing some increased volume. They're going through a golden cross as we speak. And they're aggressively trading above the 52-week or 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. And the company's going to have a excellent news flow. As you can see in the news release, they have plenty of targets, and they're getting some good stuff in a important mining camp. And I like what I see with this company. And as I said, I'll try to get them on an interview. Alrighty, the next company I'm going to talk about is Faraday Copper. Faraday's been making some news lately that's really been catching my attention, including earlier today. They announced Faraday Copper reports 33.77 meters at 3.43% copper within 65.2 meters at 1.88% copper at the Copper Creek project in Arizona. There's a quote from their president and CEO, and I quote, "The continued success of our phase 2 drill program is extremely encouraging as it confirms our view that there is significant upside to the existing mineral resource estimate. This high-grade drill hole demonstrates the potential to grow the open pit mineralization at Copper Creek," end quote. If you're open pitting that kind of grade, that's a pretty exciting sort of situation. That intersection started at 38 meters at the Copper Knight Breccian drill hole. The interval is within a long intersection, as they said, 65 meters of a 1.88% copper. The Copper Knight breccia is part of a cluster of mineralized breccias, which includes the Copper Giant, Copper Prince, and Copper Duchess. As you can see here, here's their brecciated zones: Glory Hole, Holly, Copper Giant, Copper Prince, Copper Knight, Copper Duchess. So they've got some excellent brecciation is when the rocks are all broken up. and that allows the fluids carrying the metals to then spread out. And as you can see, there's a pretty interesting trend here related to these copper giant, copper prince, copper knight, copper duchess, but then you've got these ones over here on the west side as well. I believe this is the shell of the potential open pit. So they're going to try and grab all of that mineralization. And look at here, you've got some very nice continuity of the high grade in there. And here's the pit shell. And you're looking at these blocks here are 1%. Down to, let's say, about 0.5%, but that's all very nicely mineable stuff. And then it remains open down in here and looks like it's got room to grow. There's the highlights of the drilling. Yeah, and I believe that they also had news out on January the 17th that they hit 15 meters at 10.83% copper, 1.65 grams of gold, 55 grams of silver at Copper Creek in Arizona. This was from the Copper Prince Breccia. So they're getting some size here. They're getting some good continuity. They're getting it in an open pit shell. Here's their Copper Prince Breccia. As you can see here, a nice high grade material inside the pit, but then it gets higher grade underneath the pit and it remains open. There you can see the sulfides. Just some beautiful sulfides in there, solid sulfides, and kicking out solid grades. So now I'm going to switch over to their stock chart, FDY, Faraday Copper. And as you can see here, they bottomed out in, let's say, around October, November, had a significant breakout. And then recently in January, they've had another nice move. They went through a golden cross here and are now trading aggressively above the 50-day and the 200-day moving average. With the results that they've put out recently and the potential for excellent news flow going forward, I think this is another one. It's a new company that I'm covering in the reports, as is Kalinex. And I'm going to reach out to this company as well to try to get an interview because I like copper. Copper is, some are arguing, well, if the US goes into a recession, isn't that going to affect the price of copper? I think what offsets that is that the China has opened it back up. They've have changed their COVID policy, so the economy is back open. They consume a lot of copper. The Southeast Asia consumes a lot of copper as they modernize. And then you've got the revolution in automobiles with the electric car revolution. So I think that those will definitely offset copper slowdown in the United States. And then you look at things from a supply and demand equation, and copper is, you used to measure the copper in the London Metal Exchanges and other metal exchanges where they warehouse copper, and it would always have weeks, months of supply. Now it's down to days, and meanwhile copper is doing very well. So the supply and demand story, the demand is very strong, but the supply is not nearly as strong. And there's not been enough exploration and new mine development to feed the demand that's coming from the modernization of countries in the Southeast Asia, as well as what's happening with the car demand. And so the supply demand argument for copper is very good. And that's why I like things like a Faraday Copper and a Kalinex, and the next company, which I'm very bullish on, which is 9 Mile Metals. They had a news release out today. 9 Mile Metals announces mobilization of deep diamond drill rig for phase 2 of its 9 Mile Brook VMS drill program. They announced that this will be the winter skid mount drill rig for continuation of their 5,000 meters stage 2 drill program. They've only drilled about 500 meters of that 5,000 meters, so they have a lot more to go at their flagship 9 Mile Brook VMS project. They've got new targets that they've identified at the Hinge 8 target area, and the necessary permits have been received. The drill rig will be mobilized on February 4th, so just a few days from now. And then they're going to be drilling into the deeper drilling. Now, what's really exciting about this project is the 9 Mile Brook VMS lens is very high grade. It comes right to surface, and they don't have it identified. They call this the Hinge 8 target area. The lens is over in here somewhere, and to the west of this hinge in the rock that you can see in the geophysics. And what's really exciting about that lens is that it's a thick lens, about 10 meters, and it has high grades of copper, zinc, lead, silver, and gold. It's a polymetallic VMS. And, you know, when you get super high grade in a thick lens at the surface, which is the top of a VMS system, it's pretty indicative of what drove that up there. It's in a VMS, these are volcanogenic massive sulfides. So you're looking at a volcano that created that mineralization that's high grade and thick at the top of the system, which gives you a good indication of what's happening when you get into the source of where that came from. And their Hinge 8 target area is, you can see in the rock package that there's a structure, and then at the bottom of that structure there's a hinge, and right beside that hinge is where they found this high grade lens. So this deeper drill, the bigger rig that they're going to have will be able to get down to the depth to look for the source of that hinge, as well as they've got other targets in that immediate area. As you can see here, they identify them. This one here looks like they call it the Vancouver Island target. Looks very promising and big as well. So they've got tons of targets in this immediate area near the lens, which is very exciting. Potential sources of the lens that they found, and the potential to find more massive sulfide occurrences. And they're good at it. 20 kilometers away, they drilled into their California Lake, and at California Lake, they hit massive sulfides in about 6 or 7 holes. And again, you're at the top of a system, and you're getting high-grade zinc, lead, silver, as well as sniffs of copper and gold. So it's your classic sort of zonation of grade in a massive sulfide. At the top of the system, you're going to get your zinc, lead, silver zone, and then below that, a copper and gold zone. And the fact that you're already getting the copper and the gold sniffs up at near in the area where you're looking for a zinc, lead, and silver zone is very promising, and is a good sign that as they go deeper into that system, they're going to find the source, and they should have 2 zones, one being a zinc, lead, silver zone, and below that a copper and gold zone. And that's 20 kilometers away from the lens, And by the way, why that geophysics is important is that the lens, as well as the California Lake VMS occurrence, have both been found with geophysics. They're using a company called EarthX that uses big data and algorithms to filter out the geophysical noise and then vector into where they should be finding massive sulfides. And that's exactly what's happened. And so when you look at a multitude of targets like this, you should pay attention, because they've done a lot of filtering. They've used big data to filter out the noise and vector in, and they're good at doing that because they've done it 2 for 2 so far, using geophysics to find massive sulfide occurrences in the third most important VMS mining camp in the world. So this is elephant country, and they're finding new massive sulfide occurrences, and both, they're 20 kilometers apart, both are still open to find the source of where those near surface massive sulfide occurrences have happened. And with the grade that you're seeing at surface, very exciting potential for the sources to be big and high grade as well. Okay, before I go, I'm going to bring up the 9 Mile metal chart. There you go. So as you can see, it actually got to go back here to late 2021, had a significant breakout, had a big move when they were making noise about the lens, had another big move when they announced the California Lake hits. It's been softening up since. It's now just trading slightly above the 200-day moving average. But with all the work that they're going to have coming up and the pending results that they have to come out, I think that you're going to see this trend of the 200-day and the 50-day staying well above the 200-day will continue throughout 2023 with the potential for a blast off if they find and I think it's a matter of when they find the sources of both the high-grade lens at 9 Mile Brook and the source of the California Lake stuff. So heck of a good combination for 9 Mile. And the company has a under $20 million valuation, which is ridiculously cheap, considering that they're in elephant country and the third most important VMS mining camp in the world, and that they're finding new massive sulfide occurrences with high-grade mineralization right at the surface using geophysics. That's pretty unheard of in the base metal exploration business, and I think they've got a very bright future ahead of them. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to Orla. Orla's a company that I've been talking about since they were about a $1.50 stock. And why I like this company so much is that they've got a new mine, so that they put into production in 2022. It is a new mine, so it's just starting to come out with the key data. But as you can see here in July, they had a significant breakout. And since then, the stock has been making higher lows, higher highs. They had a golden cross in December, and the 50-day moving average is moving up very aggressively. And it looks like the 200-day will spend 2023 in a very bullish trend as well with what's going on with gold. What makes this company really interesting is they've got very low costs of production. Here's their so this was the news release that went out today. Orla Mining continues to intersect wide, high-grade sulfide zones and expose deeper potential at the Camino Rojo project. 4.66 grams per ton of gold over 64 meters in the sulfide zone. This is below the oxides that they're mining right now. 4.02 grams of gold and 1.5% zinc over 22.9 meters. That's deep potential. So they highlights here at Camino Rojo, which is in Zacatecas, Mexico. And as you can see, they're getting some very nice numbers as they go deeper into their drilling. Camino Rojo deep potential drill results have shown that the gold mineralization extends deeper than the limit of the current mineral resource. These deeper intercepts suggest gold mineralization remains open at depth along and adjacent to interpreted feeder-like structures for the currently defined Camino Rojo deposit. They have another highlight hole, regional exploration, encouraging drill results on the first diamond drill core has completed outside the footprint of the Camino Rojo mine. The Guanamero target area is located approximately 7 kilometers northeast of the Camino Rojo mine along the mine structural trend. So they've got room to expand over there with potentially an oxide system. The 2022 infill drilling of the sulfide extension of the Camino Rojo deposit has consistently generated exceptional gold intersections, enhancing future development opportunity scenarios and potential to grow the resource at depth, stated Sylvain Gerard, Orla's senior VPX. He goes on, we are excited to advance a full exploration pipeline in 2023 in an effort to upgrade and expand reserves and resources and make new discoveries on our large and underexplored land package. So you can read the rest of the news release. Obviously, it's good stuff. And I believe that this company has a heck of a combination. At their oxide open pit, they're mining at a very low cost, and that's going to create a lot of free cash flow for the company. They can use that for their expansion drilling and their other projects. So this company has a bright future, and you can see it in the stock chart of late. They've really turned a corner as of July. I think that this one has a lot of legs to it based on the results they're getting and this strong performance of their stock. I think 2023 is going to see this stock at well over $10 a share. And I think that for the investor that wants a little less risk, but wants exposure to a gold stock that has a lot of blue sky ahead of it, Orla is a good choice. All right, now I'm going to go over to Silvercrest, and Silvercrest has been on my mind a lot lately. I'm going to go over the news and then I'll start talking about the second reason. So Silvercrest, here's their Silvercrest reports fourth quarter 2022 operational results and provides Las Chispas mine update. Okay, so here's the Q4 2022 highlights. Commercial production declared on November 1st, 2022, marking Q4 2022 a ramp-up quarter. In the quarter, recovered metal, including inventory, was 11,000 ounces of gold and 1.2 million ounces of silver, or 2.23 million ounces of silver equivalent. Metals poured totaled 11,000 ounces of gold, 1.06 million ounces of silver, or 2.01 million ounces of silver equivalent. Power line was fully completed in November 2022, and the mine is now energized by the national power grid with improved stability. Underground mining averaged 700 tons per day, which is below the 2021 feasibility study forecast of 750 tons per day, but in line with the revised forecast to 600 to 700, which makes sense. It's in the early stages of production. Processing plant operating metrics exceeded that 2021 feasibility study for tonnage milled, plant availability, metallurgical recoveries, with December 2022 average throughput of 1,318 tons per day at 95.5% availability, in line with the 1,250 tons per day in the previous estimates. At the end of 2022, the ore stockpiles were estimated at 261,000 tons, below the 2021 feasibility estimate of 311,000 due to a combination of higher processing rates and offset by lower mining rates than planned. They're doing an updated technical report for Q2 of 2023, which will form the basis for updated cost and production guidance. You see, that's what happens in a new mine. They're kind of going off the feasibility study, and then they start production, see how that feasibility study matches up with their product as they bring it into commercial production. And they'll have a new one out in Q2. The feasibility study was based on Q3 2020 costs, which have been impacted by inflation and may also be impacted by the changes to the mine plan. Exploration at Las Chispas focused on assisting operations with database management, grade control, drilling on new vein targets, and delineation drilling of planned mining stopes. So they're drilling to build the resource and maximize the mining grade. Local community-based multi-year projects have advanced with a focus on water and sewage infrastructure. They released a task force on climate-related financial disclosure, water stewardship reports. Financial position remains strong with debt refinancing completed at a lower rate and a reduction of debt outstanding by 40 million. And they exited 2022 with 50.8 million in cash and 50 million in debt. So what's really happening with the company is that they're going through the early stages of bringing this project into a mine. And as they do that, they have to use the historical feasibility study and compare how they're doing in the early stages. Ultimately, even with the increases due to inflation of the cost, their feasibility study had a cost of only $6.68 per pound or per ounce of silver production. Yet they're mining at, somewhere around 700, 800 grams per ton of silver. So there's a huge margin in there, and, that will be impacted by the increased costs. But even with the increased costs, they're still going to be one of the lowest cost producers of silver in the business. So that makes for a cash machine. And that's what the Las Chispas mine is, and will prove to be, I believe, in 2023. And so as you can see here, the stock has broken out significantly from the lows that it created in as gold and silver were bottoming. And now it's gone through a golden cross. It's trading right on its 50-day moving average and above its 200-day moving average. Had a nice spike here. I think that this one, the trend for this one, we'll see that 50-day moving average go much higher and the 200-day moving average to get more bullish as well. And again, this is one for the investor that wants exposure to a silver and gold miner that has low cost of production and high grade, which makes for a very high margin mine, even if you've got an increase in the price of your costs, all-in costs that you had in your feasibility study. So what often happens with these kind of new mines is that it takes a quarter or two to get all the numbers pinned down, where you're not looking at the feasibility study, which was done a couple years ago. You're looking at the actual numbers, and that takes a couple of quarters, because they've got to refine their mining. They've got ore grade controls to work on, stopes and other underground developments to make. So what happens is, for the retail investor that is nimble, you're able to get in there before the big institutions get really jacked up about what's happening with the mining operations. They're run by number crunchers. Those number crunchers need to see a quarter or two. Everything is pointing towards the story is that they're going to be a low-cost producer of silver at a high grade, and those things are all in good place. So that's why I think the trend will continue to go up quite dramatically, and offers a great opportunity. So now I'm going to get on to my own company, Advanced Lithium. And the reason for that is Las Chispas is right here. That's Silver Crest's mine. It's an epithermal vein cluster that goes through all around in here. They have this cluster of epithermal veins. Laboucan and Las Chispas is where they're getting their early production from, but they've got plenty of room to grow their resources in the future. There's a bunch of veins in here, epithermal veins. There's another very profitable mine down here called Ermitaño. It's owned by First Majestic. It's one of First Majestic's top performing mines. It is their number one mine as far as the economics of it go. And again, you've got a cluster of epithermal veins in here. So then here's Ermitaño, here's Las Chispas, and here's our Serape project, where we've got about 55 square kilometers of ground just to the north of Las Chispas. And they say a good place to look for a mine is in the head frame of a known mine. And I would add that a good place to look for a low-cost, high-grade mine is where you know there's already low-cost, high-grade mines, which is what you see here at Las Chispas and Ermitaño. And then you've got the same kind of rocks and the same kind of geology, same kind of structural corridor goes through to where Advanced Lithium has 55 square kilometers of ground to the north. There's been limited drilling done on this Serape vein, which is 5,000 meters long. And the Chiltepan has even seen less drilling. And what's important in these epithermal vein systems is that they have zonation of grade along the strike of the vein and at depth. For example, Ermitaño has one outcrop, and then the body goes like this, and then it has a plunge to it down here like this. So if you had been drilling over here, even though you're on top of a mine, you would have missed the mine. So how you drill these systematically is very important. And to date, neither the Serape vein or the Chiltepan vein on Advanced Lithium's project has had that strategic plan, strategic drilling to understand and find the boiling zones of these epithermal veins and understand the strike and the zonation on long strike and at depth. But what we do know about the Serape vein is it has multiple outcrops along that 5,000 meters. It has widespread gold and silver mineralization. Same thing can be said of the Chiltepan, widespread gold and silver mineralization, but not there's a high probability that the boiling zone of the veins has been found yet, because your grades is very similar of what they found in the at surface in the outcrops, and then as you drilled slightly deeper, same kind of stuff. So you're really not likely yet into the boiling zones of those epithermal veins. So that remains to be, those two known veins, one's 2 kilometers, Chiltepin, the Serape is 5,000 meters. Neither of those have had that systematic drilling to understand the zonation of grade along strike and at depth to find the boiling zone and understand that zonation of grade. But it's a hell of a place to be looking for that, because you know just to the immediate south and south of that, you've got 2 epithermal vein clusters that are very low cost and very high grade. But those have had the extensive drilling to find the boiling zones of those systems. So that remains open on our Serape project for advanced lithium. And then we've also got the potential. I mean, if you've got a cluster of epithermal veins down here and a cluster down here, and you know there's only 2 that have been found so far here, it stands to reason that there's a potential of finding a cluster of epithermal veins up on our Serape project, which is 55 square kilometers in size. It's a big land package, and in the right kind of rocks, looking at the right kind of mineralizing system, and near some very important mines. But that's not the only story. As I say, the company's name is Advanced Lithium. And I'm going to share screen here. We're in Mexico, and when the Mexican government announced that, I'm going to pull the chart up here. When the Mexican government announced that they're going to be doing a lithium, a national lithium company, we got punished quite dramatically, because I believe that people heard national mining company for lithium and felt that that means that they're going to expropriate our ground. I think that is not accurate. We have protection for our claims in the Constitution of Mexico that states that the Mexican government is not allowed to change the mining laws retroactively to affect companies with projects in good standing, which is what our 13 salt lakes in central Mexico that have both lithium and potassium are in good standing. The second protection we have is the US-Canada Free Trade Agreement. I'm making moves to have a meeting with the national Mexican mining company. I don't want to see us have to go through the legal route. Of course, we will if we have to, but I would rather see us create a joint venture with the national Mexican lithium company. Lithium is super hot right now. There's been some big successes in Canada where they're looking for the hard rock deposits, like what you find in Australia. Really, to meet the demands of the lithium in the future, there's going to need to be the brine deposits in the lithium triangle are going to have to do well. The hard rock deposits in Australia and Canada are going to have to do well. And the clay deposits, which are down here in Mexico, there is no brine, there is no hard rock down here in Mexico. It's all about clay deposits. They're all of it's going to have to become economic and mines in order to feed the lithium demand of the future. So I believe that there's a very good resolution to our lithium situation. But in the meantime, we've got this big land package next door to Las Chispas, owned by Silvercrest, And we're looking in the same kind of rock, the same kind of structural corridor for the same kind of things, epithermal veins. And as gold and silver, we've actually had quite a long base here. And the 50-day is starting to move up a little bit. Actually looks like we might be a couple weeks away from a golden cross. I think that we're just emerging, and I think that I've stated before that what we're trying to do here is be a phoenix rising from the ashes company. We're in the ashes because of what's happened with the lithium. I think that there's a good resolution to that, and I think what will also help us get out of the ashes is the what we're doing with our Serape project beside Silvercrest, Les Chispas mine, and the quality of that project is excellent. Alrighty, so I'm going to stop share here. And, you know, watching the news of companies is what I do on a daily basis. And I also feature companies in my reports as picks. Today I wanted to put in the news segment out of some companies that have had news or stuff that related developments, and in anticipation of the big news, which will be out tomorrow. And I'll have another show out after the Federal Reserve raises interest rates by what I think will be 0.25%, which will be the second time that they've slowed down the rate from 0.75% each meeting for several meetings, down to 0.5% in December, now down to 0.25%, and getting close to the end of the interest rate hikes. And this is setting up for a very good, a bearish situation for the US dollar and a bullish situation for metals. As always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to do your homework, speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions, and yeah, do your homework, understand the companies that you're investing in. And I think that's a recipe for success in investing in any sector. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.